name is Bob Johnson, and we live in Nelson, BC. My wife and I have been here since 1973, and this year we took our annual holidays through the Dawson Creek area and northern part of BC and the northern part of Alberta. And we took the kind of a different slant this year. We tried to look up some old Nadeau family members to look for old pictures, because my mother was Dolly Elizabeth Nadeau, and she died when I was born in 1936. So we tried to look up old family members with the idea of finding old pictures, and we found that we met a lot of nice, interesting nephews and nieces and relatives and cousins, aunts. We had one aunt that was still alive. So what I was going to do in this little presentation was to just put a little presentation together of some of the Nadeau family to better acquaint people who may not know the Nadeau family as we knew them, and hope you enjoy it. So we'll talk to you later. This is an old family photograph here taken about 1942. This is my dad, Jack Johnson, here, and then on the left side. Standing next to him is Uncle Bert. This is Bert Nadeau. And then we have Ted Nadeau here in the middle. And this is Dan Nadeau. He was the man that was in the army for a number of years. I met him when I was about 6 years old. And this is Jules Burns standing on the right-hand side. This is a photograph here of Oliver Jr. Nadeau on the right-hand side there. He was the oldest brother. And on the left-hand side is his grandmother, Mary Johnson. And Oliver never had any kids. And this couple raised me because when I was born, Dolly, my mom, died, and Dad made an arrangement to have Grandma raise me. So these couple kind of raised me. I still see my dad in the meantime, but they basically raised me. This is an old photograph here, and this is Jim Nadeau Sr. on the left-hand side. And there was the oldest daughter, Nellie Nadeau. And this one here is Ted Nadeau. This is an old photograph again. This is Lyle Burns on the left. This is Marie Johnson, which is Bert Nadeau's wife. Aunt Dorothy Johnson, it was Dorothy Bedell after she was married. This is my mom here, Dolly. It's the only picture I have of her, Dolly Nadeau. Ivy Johnson and Mary Johnson, which is the mother. And then there was Joe and Ethel Nadeau at the bottom. They're the children. This is an old photograph of Jim Nadeau and his wife. This would be Vi. It's probably one of the early pictures, probably even their wedding picture, I'm not sure, but it's an old photograph. Here's a picture of Jim again and Vi later in life. Here's a picture again taken later in life. This is Jim Nadeau Sr., one of his daughters, and Vi, his wife. I believe that was taken probably at the Moonshine Lake family reunion. This is a photograph here of one of their daughters, Jim and Vi's daughter. Her name is Betty Price Nadeau. She lives at Fairview Alberta, and it's a picture of myself. This was taken in 2004. This is a photograph of Doris Falwell Nadeau. She lives at McLennan. She is one of the seniors residents there at McLennan. She's still alive yet. We had a nice visit with her this year. Dan Nadeau's wife. She's an English war bride. This is a photograph of Doris Falwell Nadeau and all her daughters. I don't know the names of the daughters, but they're all still alive, and they live in the province of Alberta or BC. This is a photograph of Jack Nadeau. This is Dan's son here. He works at the Spirit River Hotel, and a shot of myself. We met him this year. This is a photograph of Dan Nadeau Jr. And him and his brother both work at the Spirit River Hotel in Spirit River, Alberta. We're looking at a picture of Mary Roms on the right-hand side here. This is myself, and this is Marcy, Mary's sister. These are daughters of Ted Nadeau. Both these girls live in Fairview, Alberta. Now we're looking at a photograph here of Greg William Clark and myself. We met Greg this year. He lives at McLennan, Alberta, and he's the only remaining son of Dolly Nadeau when she was married to Peter Clark. He's 75 years old and a very interesting person to talk to. So he's a son from Dolly Nadeau, only remaining son of 3 people. There was 2 brothers, 1 sister, and this is the only remaining son, Greg. Here we're looking at a photograph of my wife Barbara, and this is Jim Nadeau. He's the son of Bert Nadeau and Elaine. Jimmy runs a repair shop at Mulhorst Bay, Alberta, and he's now currently pursuing a motorcycle mechanic, and they have their family living nearby them there. This is the son of Bert Nadeau. Here's a snapshot of my father, Jack Johnson, and his sister, Marie Nadeau. Marie was a Marie Johnson originally, and then she married Bert Nadeau. And this couple here, this is my dad again and his sister, Marie. And Marie is the mother of Bert's children. Unfortunately, both these people have passed on now. This is an old photograph of Frances Johnson, which was Dad's brother Tony's wife, and my dad and his sister Dorothy, who was the only remaining Johnson left, and Marie Nadeau, who was quite a bit younger at that time. And coincidentally, Dorothy is the only remaining person in that picture. She's 83 years old this year. This is a photograph of Joe Nadeau, Bert's oldest son, who has now passed away a number of years ago, and Johnny Howerluke and Ethel Howerluke holding one of their children. Johnny and Ethel live in Grand Prairie, Alberta. There's a photograph of Alan Potratz and Diane, which is a daughter of Marie Nadeau. Diane and Alan live in Gordondale, Alberta. Shot of Esther Nadeau. A shot of Marie Nadeau, which is the mother of the girls in this group, and a shot of Ethel Howerluke. I believe the boy on the left-hand side is the son of Diane and Alan Potratz, one holding a puppy. This is an older photograph of the Potratz family, the Alan Potratz family. Be Diane, some of the younger children here, Christine and Connie, one of the boys, and this is Alan here. A shot here of Jimmy Nadeau, Bert's young son, and his mum before she passed away, Marie. And this would be Diane Potratz and Elaine Nadeau, and one of Jim and Elaine's girls. This is a shot of Uncle Tony Johnson. He's now passed on as well. It was Dad's younger brother. There's a shot of Evelyn, one of the girls, and her husband. There's an older photograph of Bert Nadeau and Marie, and this would be Joe, and probably Ethel and Esther, 2 of their children, 3 of their children in fact. That's an old photograph. There's another older photograph of Bert Nadeau, Marie, and their children. This would probably be Joe, Ethel, Esther, and one of the younger girls. Shot of the late Joe Nadeau, Bert's oldest son, and his son Robert. Shot of the late Marie Nadeau, her daughter Ethel, daughter Diane, daughter Ellen. Again, a shot of the late Aunt Marie, daughter Ellen, daughter Ethel, daughter Diane. And a shot of the late Aunt Marie and her daughter Esther. Shot of 3 Nadeau sisters, Evelyn, Ethel, Dorothy Nadeau. Shot of Johnny Howerluke and his wife Ethel Howerluke. Ethel is Marie's daughter. Shot of Jimmy Nadeau Jr., Bert's son, Evelyn, Ethel, Dorothy. Shot of the late Marie Nadeau and her daughter Diane and her daughter Connie Potrance and Christine Potrance. Shot of the late Aunt Marie Nadeau and her daughter Diane. Shot of my late father Jack Johnson, my stepmom Judy Johnson, and Ethel Howard-Luke. Shot of Elaine Nadeau, Jimmy, Bert's youngest son, Diane Potrance, Alan Potrance, and this girl here is the one of the daughters of Ethel Howard-Luke. She's a university professor in Edmonton. A shot of Ethel Howard-Luke and her daughter, who's the professor out of Edmonton, Aunt Dorothy, and Liz de Bolt's daughter Irene. She's now passed away as well. This is a shot of Jimmy Nadeau Jr., Bert's youngest son, and he's now a motorcycle buff. He's here shown installing a trike kit on the back of a motorcycle, where motorcycles come in and you take the back wheel off and you put the two rear wheel arrangement on, and the bike then becomes a trike. Jim is a bit of a buff now. He's doing those conversions, and he's at Pigeon Lake, Alberta, Mulhurst Bay. Well, there we've had a few pictures. There's a picture of all the brothers and the older Nadeau brothers. I gave you a look at those ones, and the two sisters, Nellie and my mom Dolly, and a sample of pictures, some from the Dan Nadeau family, some from the Ted Nadeau family, some from the Jim Nadeau family, and I would encourage you to try and contact the other family members, and we should be getting together to have a family reunion. And I'm going to sign off now, and I'm going to put a bit of videotape on the back of this. It's a little bit of a interview I had with Greg William Clark. He's the only remaining son. He's 75 years old. He lives in McLennan, Alberta, the only remaining son of Nellie, Aunt Nellie. And unfortunately, all the older family members are gone now, but at least we can look at the pictures of these people and try to recap some of the history. So hope you enjoy the interview that follows.
I think so.
Hang on a second. At McLennan, Alberta, and we're talking to a long-lost cousin that I didn't even know I had, and his name is Greg. And
not much to go around.
Yeah, we share a similarity here because Greg's mom was Nellie Nadeau, and my mom was Dolly Nadeau, and so consequently we're cousins that we haven't met before. So today we're just talking, and I just wanted to tell you, Greg, that my dad moved to the Alberta area. He was in the Hines Creek area for a number of years, as well as Oliver, one of your uncles, and they moved to Dawson Creek in the 1930 area. And my dad married Dolly Nadeau, and I was born on November the 30th, 1936, and Dolly died on December the 23rd, 1936. So I didn't have a chance to meet my mother. So today I was hoping that maybe you had some old pictures, but if you don't, well, we'll share some of the ones I have then. And I grew up on the farm just out of Dawson Creek. My grandmother and my uncle Oliver raised me there, and because my dad, when Dolly died, he gave me to my grandma to raise, and with the understanding that he wouldn't take me back when I was 4, 5, or 6 years old. So they raised me up. I went to school in the area, and I took the mechanics trade, and I worked for the government for 35 years. Barb and I got married in 1961. We have 2 sons, and we have 4 grandchildren. And now we're retired. I'm 70 years old, and we're going around trying to stir up some old family history. So today I'd like you to tell me a little bit about your background, about your mother especially, and any family things that happened from the time you were born, or how many people in your family.
No, as far as myself and the family per se, like my dad and Nellie, and the only contact I've had is with Florence, George, and of course myself. Till well, we were in the Kiwanis home from my dad. We went by a rail train all the way to Edmonton, in care of one of the passengers. It took us 3 days to get there. And my brother was farmed out from the orphanage, and my sister, the baby sister Florence, she was adopted out, and her adopted name was Montgomery.
So they're all gone now, eh?
Yeah, she died not right around 20 years of age.
Okay.
Registered nurse, very beautiful girl, and
then George, he passed away too?
and then George, he passed away about 10 years ago.
So you're the only person remaining from the original family of Clark then?
As far as I know. Yeah.
They,
I've been unable to find any reference in the Fairview area at all about where my dad was buried.
okay.
No one's ever heard of him, seen of him, or anything. And I've been to the town there of, what the hell, Whitelaw,
Yeah.
where I was born.
Yeah.
And nobody in town ever heard of him, seen
Right.
him, or anything. And I went through 4 different cemeteries trying to find a headstone or anything.
Have you been to the city hall like in Fairview?
I phoned them,
Oh yeah,
and they have all the records there.
yeah.
And
Now you know that I told you that earlier, but just to make sure, the Nellie is buried in Grand Prairie, according to Nadeau tells me.
yeah,
She's
Yeah.
buried there. She was
Yeah.
buried there in 1984, right? So I'm not sure the name of the cemetery, but if you have occasion.
my sister would have that
Yeah.
information.
Okay. Now I want to ask you a couple other questions. I've been getting a few comments from other family members that there must be some other kids around that are related to you, like half sisters or half brothers someplace, from like a second or third marriage.
Well, if there are, I certainly aren't aware of any of them.
Is that right? Eh?
Yeah, because when my dad left us at the train station, we never heard or seen anything from him at all, ever.
Okay. I'm thinking
My-
about on your mom's side.
Well, she was born. She was married to my dad. She left my dad,
Okay.
and she was living with the guy. I don't know if she married him or not, by Frank Whitehead.
I don't know
Up,
if that
up by northeast of Nampa.
Did they have any children? Don't know.
I don't know. I don't know whether this is so or not, but through the grapevine, he apparently hanged himself, and then she was with another guy, and I don't know what happened there, and then she married the family at Nampa.
I hear the 3 names here that I wanted to ask you about. One is Rowe, R-O-W-E.
I have no knowledge of who that is.
Gladue?
I do. Her dad used to live here.
Oh yeah, Did
Max Gladue.
okay. Okay, was your mom married to him or living with him, or were there some children from him or no?
No, that's Verna's dad.
Okay,
And whatever relationship between Max and my sister, or mother rather, I have no knowledge of what that may or may not have been.
okay, all right. I'm not trying to pry. I'm just.
No, that's fine.
And then the other name I got here that was thrown out of you the other day was Labucan.
Labucan.
Yeah.
Well, there's a Labucan family here in town.
Okay.
And relative speaking, my friend there that you just
Yeah.
met,
Yeah.
he is related to the Labukans.
Oh yeah. Okay.
And the other bunch, they're sort of a nondescript,
I see.
not overly honest people.
I see.
So I have virtually little to do with any of the
Are they?
Labukans.
Are there any relatives here? Would be like a half brother, a half sister to you?
No.
Not you aware of, eh? Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, that's interesting. Tell me about your life on the farm a little bit, where you lived. Was your dad a farmer or something? Or?
Well, my dad, as far as I know, was a water well driller.
Okay.
Now that seems to me to be a bit premature because in 1930, who in the hell drilled the well?
It was all
You
done by
dug
hand.
the damn thing by
By
a
hand,
shovel.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
So I think I got a bit of a bum steer there, but nonetheless, as I explained earlier, there's no record of him ever anywhere in the Whitelaw. I went out now. There's the thing that really jolts you. I drove to Whitelaw, and I said, well, while I'm here looking for my dad, I wonder if I can still find the old homestead.
Yeah.
So I get in my vehicle and got on the main street to Whitelaw, headed her north, drove 1.5 miles, and turned off to the west a bit. There was the homestead.
Still there, eh?
Still there. It's owned by somebody else
Is
now.
the building still up?
No, they're just sort of caved in.
Oh yeah. Old, yeah.
I mean, they're old.
So you went to school at Whitelaw, did you then?
Nope.
No.
Nope. Never went to. First schooling I got was when I started. Was age 7. I couldn't go to school when I was 6
Okay.
because I was too small.
I see. Okay.
I was only 20 inches tall,
Okay.
and so they give me an extra year, and by that time I was 26 inches tall.
Is that right?
And with a big mixed school in the city of Edmonton, you know, I mean, you're drawing from a large population.
Yeah.
eh?
Yeah.
And of course, everybody in the school, the minute they saw me, they said, well, there's a guy we can lick. Well, they all tried it, but they all got a hell of a licking out of it. But I got beat up so many times I never even worried about it.
So you
Someone said fight, and I'd just be right in there going before they could even decide whether they were going to fight or not.
so you went to school mostly where then?
Well, I went to Edmonton in grades 1 and 2.
Oh yeah.
And then, like, I was living at the Kiwanis home
Okay.
on 104th Avenue and 120th Street.
Yeah.
And I had managed to take some of the boys at school and some in the orphanage there, and they were my gang. And the authorities got quite concerned that, you know, here's a guy that could organize people,
Mhm.
and by hook or by crook he'd get them to work for him, and he gets in all kinds of trouble. So they said, well, we'd better get him out of this.
Okay.
So they did. They shipped me off to some people at Rochester by the name of Albert Betts.
So you did you actually spend much time on the farm, the old farm place, so at where you were born out there?
At Whitelaw?
Yeah.
Just till the time that Dad shipped us off to the city.
And that
I
would
was
be about
3 years of age.
3 years of age.
Yeah.
Is that right?
My
That
sister
would be
was
after
2 and my brother was 4.
That would be after the time that Nellie left you with the cat family.
Yeah.
She just left the family. Eh?
Well, you
Sad.
get bits and pieces here and
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
And a lot of the information you gather up in this country, a lot of it is spiteful, hateful,
yeah,
and
yeah.
it's so bloody colored
Yeah.
that you don't know truth from
No,
fact
that's
fiction.
right,
eh?
yeah,
So I just ignore the whole
Yeah.
damn works, and I meet them, I decide whether I like them or not,
Yeah.
and then we go from there.
yeah.
I'll judge you on your own merits.
Oh, sure, definitely.
But no, I never lived on the farm until I went to Rochester with Betts's, and they
Where-
kept me. I think it was 2 summers.
Is that out of Edmonton,
No, it's out of Rochester,
New York?
Alberta.
Oh, Alberta. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
there's Rochester, New York,
Yes.
Rochester,
Yes.
Washington
Yes. Okay.
State, and Rochester, Alberta.
Okay.
But and then I went and lived with the people called Chris Hansen. He was his wife was a school teacher at Blueberry Ridge School.
Okay.
No, that's Caribou Range School.
Mhm.
And then I went to Hans, H-A-H-N, and I stayed with them. I think it was a couple of years. And then I lived with a elderly couple by the name of Whedon,
Okay.
and they were sort of Puritans.
I see.
And very straight basement proper
Yeah,
and all
yeah.
this stuff.
Yeah.
Very hard working people,
Yeah.
very honest, lots of integrity.
Uh-huh.
And they, in my life, made the most impression.
Oh, sure, they would.
You
Yeah.
know. And they had a great big orange tabby cat, neutered about that long.
Yeah.
And him and I just like that.
Got along good. That's good. So you kind of lost track after your mom left. You lost track of her. You didn't have no verbal contact with her for a number of years, eh?
Not a thing, not
That's
for
sad.
30 some odd years, 35 years or so.
That's sad.
Yeah. And I was working for an engineering firm in Edmonton, Tawtrip Engineering, and I was recultivating 600 acres west of the city of Edmonton,
Okay.
8 miles. And in the process of 5 years of working there, I cultivated about 600 acres, rebroke it all myself and worked it down and seeded it to painate. And then the owner decided he would like a house built on the ranch. So he said, build something, you know, whatever size you want, but he said, you know, make it fairly substantial, 30 or 40,
Yeah, yeah.
you know, feet wide,
Yeah.
whatever. And it should have at least 3 bedrooms. And
Okay.
should finish off the basement. So I designed this house 30 by 40 feet with a full basement in it.
Okay.
Pony wall construction, about 4 feet,
Yeah.
and then the proper house on top.
Yeah. Yeah.
I did all the supervision and helped in the construction of the framework, placement of the concrete. I did all the designing of the woodwork, totally from
Okay.
top to bottom. Did all the wiring, all the plumbing, all the gas fitting,
Oh, great.
and the upstairs is a 3-piece bathroom, but so
Okay.
does the basement.
Yeah.
And it has 2 electrical systems, 2 plumbing systems.
Mhm.
So, and it's quite a nice looking building.
Very
In fact, I have some pictures in the house.
You said you also worked as an accountant someplace?
For 50 years.
Oh, for what company?
Well, I started off with the Department of Transport. No. Yeah, I guess it was the Department of Transport at Grand Prairie,
Okay.
engineers.
Yeah.
And we started the refinishing of the air runways at Grand Prairie Airport. Now, Grand Prairie Airport in those days, I mean, the airport was quite a distance out of town to
Yes.
the west,
Yes.
and for the most part, there wasn't all that much traffic
Yeah.
there either.
Yeah.
But that, of course, now is all changed.
Almost filled in now. Oh,
Yeah.
man. Hard to believe.
And so then after, contrary to the promise made to me when I started with DOT, they said the job would go right through.
Okay.
2 or 3 years, whatever it took to redo
Okay.
Grand Prairie Airport. Well, the sad part of it is that didn't happen. So
Okay.
at the end of November, I got laid off with the rest of the group.
Okay.
Well, and I hadn't been counting on that.
Yes.
So here I am, marooned up in Grand Prairie, short of funds somewhat, and because that summer I had done one hell of a pile of drinking.
Oh, okay.
And in my latter years of high school, I did a fair amount of drinking there too. But when I kept falling off the horse, I decided to stay sober when I was working with the horses.
So you have had, hopefully, the list that I'm giving you today and the photographs will maybe spur you into looking for more family members around the country. Now, when we go home, I've got a bunch more pictures that I haven't given you. I've got a computer half full that Jimmy Nadeau out of Pigeon Lake gave me. And his older sister, Ethel, is married to Johnny Howerluke, and they live in Grand Prairie, and she's got a ton of old pictures. The only thing is, I think I've given you the only picture I have of your mom, and the only picture I have of my mom is the one I showed you. So I can't give you a lot there, but I can give you pictures of other family members. You know, if you're interested in having more.
Well, not really. Thanks, just the same.
Yep.
I mean, for the most part, I have been pretty much independent since
Yes.
my dad turned me over to the government.
Yes, I understand.
And the government did see me through high school.
Good.
And miracle on miracles, I did graduate. And from then on, I've educated myself. You'll find in the house here I have a whole pile of books. I've been an incessant reader of
Good.
just about everything under the sun.
That's great.
I mean, other than being an electrician, a plumber, a gas fitter, an arc welder, acetylene welder, TIG welder, MIG welder, some engines I can overhaul, some I can't. Diesels I've never done.
Understand that. Okay.
Been involved in designing and building fiberglass boats. Designed and built houses for the DND in Whitehorse.
Oh yeah. Okay. I know that.
Yukon Forestry in Whitehorse.
Yeah.
Most of the campsites you see in Yukon, from Watson Lake all the way to the Tok border up in Alaska, those buildings were all designed on my drawings. And then I went to Waterton Park and got involved in park administration, and then I got heavy into revenue because I was the treasury officer for the government for the department here.
Yeah.
And we had all kinds of permits.
Oh,
The
yeah.
whole government, we got a permit for everything.
Oh, yeah.
And I spent 5 years there, and then I transferred to Canadian Wildlife Service in Edmonton,
Oh, yeah.
and put 5 years in there, and then I got totally teed off when I was passed over on a promotion and told them where they could take their stuff, their job. And then I transferred to Department of Transport in Edmonton in auditing, and I put in 5 years there, and be damned if I didn't get snookered there on a promotion, so I just told them goodbye, and I went to private industry as an accountant in a pipe bending firm.
Oh, yeah.
Did
That's good.
big S bends and pressure relief
Yes. Yes.
expansion joints and all this. All had to be 100% welded inspections and all this. We did pipe all over this bloody province.
Getting back to your mom, I feel sorry for you having to have your mom walk out, and in a family
Well,
of children. That's,
No,
that's sad,
actually,
eh?
when you look at it, all things considered, if I'd have had a doting mother, I wouldn't have wound up being worth a tin cup full of pee. But as I had no one to worry about or do for me, I had to look after
Yourself.
myself.
You had to work harder at it.
Yep.
That's right.
And I didn't have anyone. In fact, the only time, well, when my brother and I were in the orphanage, him and I were always in fights. Usually, he would get in a fight and I'd come and help him. And I almost killed one guy that had him down on the ground and was just hammering me. And I hit him with a piece of 2x4 about 6 feet long with a spike protruding out of the bottom of it. And I just grabbed it up and I clunked him on the head. And the spike entered by his temple here and came out behind his ear. And that's when the authorities decided they'd better get me out of Edmonton before I took over the whole city.
I can't think of anything else. I was kind of hoping that I would walk in and say, well, you got any pictures? And you'd have a few pictures of your mom and her younger sister, but it sounds like that hasn't happened.
No. There was, other than my brother and sister, I have pictures of my brother. I don't know what happened to the picture of my sister. but it's I removed them all the time since then.
Yeah, well, it's kind of sad. Like even when I talked to Doris Falwell over here, Dan Meadows' wife, he's passed away now years ago. All those deaths are shown in this list, by the way.
Yeah.
And she didn't have any pictures of Dan. And we walked into her apartment over there, and we looked on the wall, and she had her daughters and her sons, but not one picture of Dan. So when I talked to Doris over here, the Marie Doris, I asked her about the photographs. And I also asked Danny and Jack, her younger brothers. I said, "You got any photographs of your dad?" No. And I found out that the house burned and they lost all this stuff. So I was happy that I was able to give them pictures like these ones here of like a Dan when he was in the army. You know, like you can't get those anymore. You know, that were taken about 1942, eh?
Yeah.
So I think that about answers. So I want to thank you for the time for going on film.
Shoot.
And I think we can wind up there, Barb, and we'll just talk a little bit after. Maybe take a couple still shots. That's good. So I want to